Hello, my name is Matt Schultz, and today I'm going to be talking about three different pieces of art. The three pieces I'm going to be sharing with you today are from an artist called Jean-Michel Basquiat. Basquiat was a neo-expressionism artist who made his work in the early 1970s and into the 80s during the neo-expressionism art movement. So before I start to get into the artwork here, I'm going to give you a brief background on what neo-expressionism is so we can make those connections between them. The Neo-Expressionism movement is an art form that was prominent in the late 1970s into the 1980s. It consists of many different colorful shapes and other recognizable objects to also try to portray the human body. And we're going to see that in his use of skeletal structures throughout his artwork in two different pieces of art that I'm going to be sharing today. And it also tries to portray other objects in pretty rough and rigid ways, and we're going to see that as well later. So it was made to oppose the minimalist, introverted, highly intellectualized abstract art production of the 1970s, which quickly here I'm just going to show you what they look like and what they're trying to stay away from not trying to do. They want to use more vivid colors, try to use more emotion, and have more recognizable objects in their artwork. So for the first piece I'm going to be talking about here today is called Gold Griot. The word griot it basically means any West African historian, storyteller, singer, poet, or a musician. Basquiat puts a great amount of interest into his African heritage and black history, in general for that matter. He puts it at the center of his art, and he himself can be actually reflected as to being a griot by his ability to be a storyteller through his art, using his paintings to convey different messages, whatever that may be. So in the painting itself, we can see the neo-expressionism in it with the skeletal structure as I mentioned previously. It's pretty roughly constructed with many sharp edges and rough shapes, being roughly constructed. The skeletal structure also has a bigger head, and that's another thing that he carries throughout his art, and then we're going to see that again later in the third piece. This painting can also remind some of traditional African sculptures in Western Africa, as well as which can speak to who would be the audience for this painting. So the second painting I will be sharing with you is called Ishtar. This painting is a pretty large-scale one. It doesn't look that big on the screen here, but it's quite large. We can first see many different objects within the art, many different words. It repeats Ishtar throughout the thing, throughout the art, and it can almost look like hieroglyphics in the art, which is another common theme among Basquiat's work. He likes to use hieroglyphics a lot. So speaking on themes within his art, he tends to use and reference the Bible and mythology a lot in his art, which mythology I'm going to get into here in a second. But he uses the Bible in this way. If you see down here, I can't draw, but it's down in the bottom right there. He references Kings 7, 21, and 22. He writes down there, which refers to the Samson in the Bible, the Samson story, where he tears down the pillars of the temple. And again, he refers to the Samson story just below it, where he writes, side view of an oxen's jaw, which refers to the story of Samson slaying many Philistines with an oxen bone. So the name behind this painting, Ishtar, is actually referencing the Egyptian goddess of war and mythology. So we're starting to see that connection here with the hieroglyphics and Egyptian goddess being things that do relate back to Africa. So another thing to point out here in this piece is his use of many different and unique colors and shapes to really convey the neo-expressionism style of artwork. So now moving on to our third and final piece of artwork I'm going to be sharing. It is called Riding with Death. So as I previously mentioned, as we saw in the first piece as well, Basquiat tends to work with the skeletal structure, and we can see that here repeated in this artwork. So this was one of Basquiat's last paintings, actually, before his death. We see an African-American figure riding a white skeleton. It is thought that this painting plays into the stereotype of what the Western societies thought at the time of traditional and tribal African art. You can also get the sense of doom and lack of optimism in this work, with it being very dull and dark colors. and it is only strengthened with the knowledge that it was painted right before his death, which was unfortunately a suicide. So many may have not have heard of Basquiat in the past, as in the 1970s the art world was majorly dominated by white artists, but the hope is that this would give better insight on him and his artwork. Thank you.